And and welcome to the Laconic Mnemonic podcast. My name is Kyle Hartwick. Today we're going to be talking about Shadow of Mordor, Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor. I messed that up last time. And we're also going to be playing Rocket League. It's kind of a weird combination, but I think you guys will like it. It'll be something to look at rather than just looking at our faces. Today I'm joined by Shadow of Mordor expert Thomas Jones. He just recently platinumed that game. I'm still really pissed at him for it. Thomas, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. Chilling out playing Rocket League and putting off homework, typical college night. So, just chilling, having a good time.
Now I asked you this in the one that we deleted, but did you get any beer? You need beer or something.
I do have a few Centennial IPAs.
Oh, that'll work. That'll work. I am
Yeah.
actually drinking a West Coast style IPA from Great River, so
Oh,
that's
nice.
yeah, it's a really good one. I'm also drinking PBR because I'm cheap. Um, anyways, I'm sure that's not the last time we'll mention beer, but we'll kind of move on from that. Um, yeah, so we're gonna play Rocket League while talking about Shadow of Mordor. We'll kind of talk about why we like the game, um, where the game kind of fits in, and like our top five, top 10 of all time. Because I think Thomas and I like it a bit. We've played it enough to get to the point where we're platinuming it or near platinuming it. We'll talk about how hard it was to platinum it, what kind of games it's similar to, maybe talk about Lord of the Rings, and then also intermixed with all of that, we're going to be bitching about Rocket League. Um, Today we're going to play a game style called Snow Day. It's a hockey style game. Rather than using the ball that you see in the background there, you're going to be using a puck, and there's going to be ice, and it's going to be awesome. So we'll get started on that. Thomas, I guess I'll start out with a question. Well, I guess what drew you into Shadow of Mordor from the get-go, and then what made you want to platinum it?
Well, from the get-go, me and my brother and my mom are all huge Lord of the Rings nerds. So when I heard about this game coming out, I was super stoked. I played all the old school Lord of the Rings games, like for PlayStation 3 or 2 or whatever they were when the movie Return of the King came out. I've always just been interested in those games. But to me, the combat style looked pretty much like Batman Arkham Asylum at that time, or maybe City if City was out. Um, and I like that style. It's just a fun kind of free flow game. It has some stealth mixed into it and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it looked really good. And the platinum part came because once I finished the game, I realized I was actually pretty close to getting a platinum, and that was my first. I didn't have any, so I figured, what the heck, you got to start somewhere.
Fair enough. Yeah. Quick side note: I actually played with one of these guys earlier, Tuke, on the other team. He's decent. So, or no, he's on our team. He's good. He'll get us some good stuff. Except he couldn't capitalize there. Sorry for the side note. Yeah, that all makes sense. I mean, obviously, we're pretty huge nerds, so it makes sense that we would like a Lord of the Rings style game. Um, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I love the combat style. What did you think of the open world concept for Shadow of Mordor? I know it wasn't as big of an open world as some of its counterparts, but it was still pretty impressive, don't you think?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it wasn't a big open world. It was definitely pretty limited with the space, but there were two maps, which was nice. Um, so that was kind of fun. You didn't just play the same location the whole time. Um, the world was done pretty well graphically and all that sort of stuff, and kind of the random things that happen. So yeah, overall it was good. It's just a little bit small. Um, like if you play Skyrim or Fallout or The Witcher or whatever. But still really good, done really well.
Hey, nice. Um, yeah, I completely agree. It was a smaller open world, like the both of us said, but uh, I think it was overall one of the best games of 2014. I think I could call it my game of the year. I am still playing through Dragon Age Inquisition though, which is just a massive, amazing game. But we'll kind of judge that later. Um, kind of like walk us through the story a little bit? I know it's not much because the story wasn't the best. I did like it, but it seemed short. Because I don't know about you, but I 100% of the game in 23 and a half hours. So I guess tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the story, what it meant in the realm of the Lord of the Rings saga, I guess, and then just like I don't know your thoughts on it.
Well, pretty much the story, if I remember it correctly, is it's about a ranger, I believe,
Nice shot.
and this is kind of the time when Sauron's he's been defeated, but he's kind of gaining his power back that you see in the movies. And pretty much what happens right off the bat is your family gets killed, and the character, the main protagonist, Talion, actually gets killed too. That's like the first probably, I don't know, 10 minutes or so in the game, and we're like, whoa, my guy's dead. But really where this game kind of takes off is a guy called Celebrimbor who's dead, and he's from like a different age or whatever. He's a wraith, and he actually kind of overtakes your body and gives you these wraith powers, and that's pretty much where the story takes off. You're on a quest for vengeance because these orcs killed your family and kind of they killed you, and you're pretty much going through trying to do as much damage as you can to Sauron's army and stop his coming to power and all that sort of stuff. So again, kind of where it fits in with the Lord of the Rings. It's before the Fellowship of the Ring and all that, so you could think of it pretty much as a guy who's trying to prolong the inevitable, really, until the Lord of the Rings happens. That's pretty much what I got out of the story. I don't know if you have anything else to put onto that, Kyle,
Yeah,
but that's kind of what I remember.
yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I wanted to add on is that both of the characters that you play as, which is Celebrimbor inside of Talion the Ranger, they're both dead. And I think Talion's whole purpose the entire game, sure he's trying to delay the inevitable and just kind of like get inside Sauron's army, but he's also trying to die because he's been basically denied death and he wants to join his family in whatever sort of afterworld there is in this series. Uh, but at the end of the story, he doesn't die. Like not even at the end of the main campaign. So it's kind of like, okay, well, he had this goal the entire time to die and join his family, and then he doesn't even do it in the end. So that's where I kind of got lost. Maybe I was misinterpreting it, but that's what I took away from the story as my biggest negative of the game. Other than that, the gameplay was incredible. Like you mentioned, it was similar to the Batman style fighting combat uh, deal, but I feel like it did have its differences, specifically in how you traverse throughout the world. So tell us a little bit about the gameplay aspect of it. Obviously, it's reminiscent of Assassin's Creed and Batman, but yeah, tell us whatever you want to about the gameplay, maybe about the wraith powers and stuff like that. But
Okay. Yeah, the gameplay, getting around the world, you can fast travel and stuff, but I eventually in the game you get a power to ride the Caragors, which, if you know the Lord of the Rings stuff, those are the beasts that the orcs ride. They're like kind of wolf, weird-looking things. But you actually get a power to ride those. That's pretty much how I got around. You also can ride Grogs, but they're a little bit harder to find. Those are pretty much trolls.
but when you do
Um,
find them, they are so OP. Like you can just go
yeah,
up to any group of orcs and it's just over for them. And that's what I liked is just riding around on those and tearing stuff up, especially after I beat the game. Sorry about that. Go ahead though.
oh, no, no problem. The Wraith powers, well, actually, in the game, you have two different upgrade slots. You have Wraith powers and Ranger powers. The Ranger powers are more focused on like your health and stuff like that, and your like sword powers and race stuff is more on your bow, kind of sneaky and all that sort of stuff. But there's two slots you can choose to upgrade. The wraith powers are definitely pretty cool.
Press
You
ready,
can
Thomas.
grant right. You can grand orcs and make them on your team, which is cool. Like I said, you have a bow and arrow that kind of slows down time. You can snipe people from a long range. You can kind of teleport a little bit too eventually in the game. Just stuff like that. There's a lot to choose, and eventually, if you get a platinum, you get every ability in the game. But yeah, they kind of make you choose between the ranger powers and going through the wraith powers depending on your play style.
Yeah, and it's really nice. Unlike Witcher, which you mentioned in our Game of the Year article, in Witcher you can't have everything. In Shadow of Mordor, they allow you to basically fill every slot. Whereas Witcher had like 16 ability slots, but then they had, about 100 abilities. Whereas Shadow of Mordor, if you unlock something, it's automatically unlocked. So that made it a lot easier as the game progressed to go around and basically fuck shit up. Made it a lot easier to kill orcs. And I at several points in time, I've owned different versions of this game. I initially bought it for PC, back before I had PS4 or anything. And then once I bought a PS4, I got more into it. And that's where I got this 23-hour gameplay. It seemed a lot easier to me the second time I played it than the first time I did. Do you know why that would be, Thomas? Is it just because I had gotten used to those types of games, or maybe it's just easier to play it on a PS4? Because I felt like I was struggling a lot on PC, whereas on PS4 it was super easy. I don't know if you felt that at all with any of your playthroughs.
I mean, I could see it. The biggest thing for me when I started the game, they have how do you say that word? Nemesis system.
Nemesis, yeah.
There we go. They have a nemesis system where they're not really bosses, but the big dudes in the game, they learn how you fight, and pretty much they get harder and harder. So at the beginning of the game, before you kind of know how to take out people and what to look for, if you just go in there and kind of hack and slash, especially the low level, you're probably going to get killed. Because a lot of these captains and stuff and war chiefs have immunities to your abilities, and you don't know what they are unless you do your research, and you don't know how to combat them. So I can definitely see it being kind of hard at first because your enemies learn, and that's something that was, I don't think, done at all yet in the game, and that was kind of a new thing it brought. So the second time playing through probably made it a little bit easier just because you kind of expected that and kind of knew how it worked, would be my guess. I've actually only done one playthrough myself. I'm trying to go through DLC now. But yeah, at the beginning it was kind of weird for me too because I had enemies that learned and learned pretty much how I fought. So.
And I think I'll mention something else real quick that made it really tough for me on my first playthrough. And I vaguely remember you talking about this as well, is I think this was a pre-patch gameplay thing where I would face up against a captain and then I would escape because, they were either too powerful for me or I just wasn't fighting them correctly and I'd gotten pretty low on health, so I ran away. And then 5 minutes later, they would chase me down like halfway across the map and then kill me. Or the other big one was I would be fighting a captain and then 2 other captains would show up. And I feel like this is something that they added in to make it difficult for you. But it seemed a lot more aggressive on PC than it did on my second playthrough. Can you tell me a little bit about what you experienced with that? Because I know you probably had that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. That's kind of something I forgot to mention too. The captains, you don't just go meet and fight people; they constantly hunt you. which is pretty sweet. So you can literally have like an arch rival, and he will chase you all across the map until he kills you. And once he kills you, he levels up and all that sort of stuff. But um, in my experience, I actually didn't have a whole too lot of that in the game. I had one character who did that, and I don't know how many times he killed me, but he ended up being the strongest character in the game for me. So for me, it was more of a one-person deal instead of having a bunch of war chiefs teaming up or captains or whatever. But my brother, watching him play it on his profile, he had a captain who never stopped chasing him. Like he said he would literally run into this captain about once every 10 to 15 minutes. And he would see him coming, like if he's on a cliff or whatever and he's looking out towards the field, he would see that guy sprinting towards him. So it's a little bit different for everybody, and I think that's kind of a point with the Nemesis system. But yeah, it's pretty cool. They do hunt you, they do try to track you down and all that sort of stuff. And again, some people's games, they'll all team up and work together, or in my instance, it's pretty much one character that just really has it out to get me. But yeah, it's a cool thing that game did. It was really cool.
Yeah, and while we're talking about this Nemesis system and how the captain's pursued, there's one specific instance. It was later on in my playthrough, probably about 15 hours in. I was fighting a war chief and everything was going really well, and then I hear Ranger, which is like a captain showing up. I was like, oh god damn it. So a captain shows up and I have to fight him and his guys too. And after I defeated that captain, I hear Ranger. I'm like, no. And it's another war chief. And the war chief brought like 3 of his bodyguards. And so I'm fighting 2 war chiefs, 3 bodyguards, and a bunch of other orcs that are there. I'm just thinking, how am I not dying here? Because I only died like 4 times in my entire playthrough. So it's a fun system, but it does have its flaws, I think. Because when you're fighting like 6 or 7 captain level people, it gets a little obnoxious. So I guess we'll talk about next. You said you're going to play through some DLC. I don't know how much you've played through, but what do you know about the DLC, and what can you basically have our listeners expect to do in the DLC? Like, is it more just hack and slash, run around, kill orcs, or is there a different element to the DLC?
I haven't really played the Bright Lord yet, but I did finish Lord of the Hunt. First off, it's super short. It would probably be a lot more fun if you played it before you beat the game like me. I played it after I had every single power, and if I wanted to just beat the DLC, I probably could have done it in an hour or less.
Huh.
Just due to the powers I had and how OP'd my character kind of is at the moment. But if you don't have that, it might take you longer.
Ready up.
But right, Lord of the Hunt. It was fun. I said it was really short, which is disappointing. It did bring in 2 new beasts, or 3 actually. But really, you got a new grog called a Wretched Grog, and it actually kind of spit like venom or toxin, like threw it up pretty much.
Awesome.
And it brought in a Charagoth, which is a Karagoth. Pretty much the same thing as a Karagor, but you get the ability to sneak and do stealth kills with it, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
But overall, the DLC, really all you do is there's 5 new war chiefs that they call Beastmasters, and they actually ride these things. So there's one guy who rides a Karagoth, there's one guy who rides a Grog, there's one guy who controls ghouls. So that's kind of the idea, is that Sauron's army is learning how to tame the beasts like you do. And of course that's a big no-no because that puts a lot of power in your hands. So Talion and the dwarf guy you meet, I don't remember his name,
What's
at
his
all.
name?
But he kind of helps you and teaches you about the new beasts that he's found, and you use them pretty much to take down the beast masters that Sauron is getting.
Okay.
And the Bright Lord DLC, you actually play as Celebrimbor, so it actually happens before um, the actual normal storytelling. But you learn kind of Celebrimbor's story, what he did after he stole the ring from Sauron, and then ultimately I think you get to fight Sauron and take him out of power, kill him, and then that's kind of where Talion takes over eventually. Of course, it's many, many years after that, but Celebrimbor pretty much stops Sauron's power. At that point in time, Sauron's like at his maximum, just kind of tearing everything up. So I haven't played that really at all, but that's kind of the story as far as I understand it.
And you're actually the opposite of me because I haven't played any of the Lord of the Hunt missions at all, but I have played probably an hour and a half of the Bright Lord campaign, and it's really fun. There's plenty of it is the same gameplay as the regular game, except you don't have as many Wraith abilities because, well, you're not a Wraith yet. So
right.
There are some things that you can do that the Wraith can do, but you can't slow down time with your bow like you could in the regular campaign. So I guess we'll go into trophies here. What is the most difficult trophy for this game? Just off the top of your head.
The most difficult one for me was the White Rider trophy. You have to liberate 30 slaves in 2.5 minutes, I believe, 180 seconds.
That's 3 minutes.
Doesn't sound hard. Or yeah. Or no, it's 120 seconds, I think. I don't remember.
Is it?
Like that.
It's
I'm
either
sure it's 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so it'd be 150.
Or yeah, I don't know. I can't do math.
All right, whatever.
But,
we're trying to do like 8 different things at once, so it's fine.
That trophy though was the hardest for me, not because it's really all that hard. I swear I did it about 8 times before it gave me the trophy. I don't know the criteria for how it counts or when time starts because I liberated 40 slaves in I know less than 2 minutes, and I didn't get the trophy, so I just had to keep redoing it, and eventually just gave it to me one time. So that one's pretty difficult. And as far as skill difficulty, probably the Flaming Vengeance trophy, I think it's called. You have to kill, what is it, 3 Flaming Berserkers?
No, it's just one. It's just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one's kind of a pain, depending on the abilities you have. And as far as the luck trophy goes, definitely the level 25 rune, because that's the highest level rune there is in the game, I do believe, unless you play the Bright Lord for the 30. But for the normal story, 25 is the highest you can get, so you just gotta kind of grind that out. That just takes a little bit. Not hard to do, it's just all off luck.
Yeah. And there is criteria for getting the level 25 rune because the war chiefs, their max is 20. So then you have to do a couple things to increase their power. It would be issuing a death threat, which increases their power by 2, or I believe you have to play on one of their weaknesses. There's a couple other things. I think you have to have one of their bodyguards betray them, so you have to brand a bodyguard. There's a lot of different things to do with that trophy, and it makes life difficult, basically. That's good. Those are good 3. I would agree with those 3, mostly because I don't have those 3 yet. So,
okay.
I think some people might find it difficult to find all of the artifacts and what was the other thing, like the script on the wall. Those are kind of hard, but if you just pay attention, it's really not that bad. but yeah, like I said, it is a really short story. I 100% beat the game, so all artifacts, all hunter challenges, survivor challenges, uh, the sword, the bow, and the dagger challenges. The what was the is the slave challenges or whatever too.
Yeah, the slave liberations. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of that in under a day. So I mean, that wasn't too bad, I think, compared to The Witcher, which I put over 200 hours into and have about 50% of a platinum. Uh, it's a completely different animal. But it was still a super fun game. Uh, lot of fun, honestly. One of actually, we'll go into that next. Thomas, where would you rank this game in your gaming history? Like top 10, top 5, top 20?
Um, that's pretty tough. I mean, with the Nemesis system, that's a pretty unique idea. So that definitely puts it up there. But biggest things I didn't like were that it was short and you can get totally OP'd. Um, I don't know. It's definitely not one of my top. Um, but it was entertaining. If I'm just playing the game for straight entertainment and all that sort of stuff, it's probably up in the top. I don't know, 20. But I definitely wouldn't say it's up super high on my list just because, again, it's super short and I can kill now any captain or war chief in 30 seconds or less. Um, so, there's that. But it's still a really good game. Um, but I wouldn't consider it like one of my top five or anything like that.
For sure. Now to kind of wrap things up, um, that game did come out in 2014, so we didn't talk about it too much in our 2015 Game of the Year little podcast we had. Would you have called that your Game of the Year for 2015, Thomas? Or 2014?
Hmm. Yeah, probably. Um, yeah, that.
The
Yeah,
only
I pretty much would.
the only two I can think of
um,
that are contending for me personally are Far Cry 4 and Dragon Age Inquisition.
yeah.
Because those were just amazing games. But I do love Lord of the Rings, love J.R.R. Tolkien, love it all. So I guess we'll kind of wrap things up. Thomas, did you have anything else you wanted to say about the game, or about any of the games of Rocket League that we played tonight, or about beer that you've been drinking?
I said the only beer I have at the moment Centennial, but if you haven't had Centennial IPA, it's good stuff. Check it out. Pretty hoppy, a little citrusy. It's a pretty good IPA. As far as Rocket League goes, I know you did an article about your first platinum, which was this game, and we did talk quite a bit about it on our podcast. So anybody listening or is viewing this or whatever, now you have some visual for it. It's probably more fun to play than it is to watch, but it's awesome. Again, I'd recommend it for anybody. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I have, unless you've got anything else.
Yeah, I'm going to plug a few things that are going to be coming up on the website pretty soon. Obviously, we will have an article linked with this video. Looks like we have two people following live. I could probably guess who those two people are, but I won't say their names right now. Um, so we'll have an article with this in it. We'll have that up on the site in probably about the next couple of hours. I'm going to be writing a piece about my second platinum, which was Telltale's Game of Thrones. It's going to be a super short article, going to be focusing mostly on the story of it rather than the trophies because it's a super easy game. Like you literally just press a button every 3 minutes or so. Um, then I'm going to also be hopefully writing a couple articles in the next few weeks. One about previewing game or excuse me, previewing season 6 of Game of Thrones and kind of talking about how The Winds of Winter didn't come out before the season, how some people are bummed about that, but how I am not necessarily disappointed. I'm also going to be talking about how, and this is in a different article, how Fallout 4 has been a big disappointment for me. I'm still giving it, second, third, fourth, fifth chances just because of how much people love it, but it might just not be a good game for me. Thomas, are you working on anything for the site coming up, or do you have any ideas on what you're going to do for the site?
Um, Not really at the moment. I mean, I was thinking about maybe showing some Rainbow Six Siege. I've been super into that. And of course, I wrote an article for that too. So maybe some visuals for that. Other than that, I was thinking about doing maybe some other gaming stuff, but I've got to start tearing into more games before
Right.
I do another review. But I did just start Dishonored, the definitive edition.
Oh,
I love my first time playing it on the PlayStation 3. I'm sure I'm gonna love it this time. So, maybe something with that. I don't know at the moment, but it's possible.
I just thought of one thing that all three of us, Colton included, are going to be covering, which is Far Cry Primal comes out in like 2 weeks, Thomas.
Right. Yep. We should definitely do something with that.
I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't
that's a
know.
good one.
I don't know what we're gonna do, but I know that's a part of our challenge that I proposed on the last podcast. Which
Yeah.
we'll talk about that real quick. How are you progressing on those games?
Um, I'm not much farther than I was. Um, yeah. So The Witcher, I've got a long, long ways to go. I don't remember the set. Which other one did we pick?
We picked Witcher, Arkham Knight, and we
Arkham
we
Knight.
initially picked Fallout 4, but then I fell out of Fallout. I fall out of Fallout. Um, so we decided we wanted to do a game that hasn't been out yet, and Far Cry Primal,
Right.
which
Yeah,
I think
Arkham
will be
Knight.
the better platinum, anyways.
Yeah, probably. Arkham Knight, that's definitely going to be a challenge because you have to get all like 240 or somewhere around there trophies. I am currently on maybe 30. So,
You only have to get the ones from the original game. You don't have to get the DLC. Or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
are you talking about like trophies in game? Like,
Yeah, like to get
oh,
the actual ending of Arkham Knight, the actual ending of the game, you have to do all the Riddler trophies. And like I
oh
said, I think
God,
there's like 240 somewhere in there. And you have to do that to fight the Riddler, and you get a trophy for beating the Riddler. So you pretty much can't beat or get a platinum unless you find all the trophies. And like I said, there's probably around 240. So that's definitely going to take some time.
Jesus.
But I think in that game, that's probably the last hard thing I have to do. The rest of it's pretty much just going to locations and doing it. So that one I might not be too far off, but The Witcher, yeah, I'm way off, and Far Cry Primal's obviously not out yet. So
Yeah, I actually
ways to go.
took the lead on Witcher. I'm pretty pumped about that. I think Colton's at 45 or 50%, and I believe I'm at 55 or 60%. So, I mean, obviously, I have to go through my Death March, which is an awesome name for a difficulty level of a game, but I have to go through and beat the game on Death March,
Yeah.
which will take a while. But there's a bunch of fighting ones that I have to do, um, and then Witcher contracts as well, because you have to get all of the Witcher contracts, which is I think 25 or 26 Witcher contracts, and they're
Oh, okay.
all insanely hard. At least some of them are.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll kind of wrap things up. Thanks for those who are following along. I believe it's Melanie and Colton, but I'm just taking a stab there. If I'm wrong, yell at me on Twitter. I'm at Kyle J Hartwick. Yell at Thomas. He's at Thomas underscore Jones 15, because he has a really common name, so he has to choose a really unique Twitter handle. I'm sure that was a pain. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
always a pain.
yeah, and then also follow us at LMblog1 on Twitter. I really want to get the handle Laconic Mnemonic, but someone actually has that, believe it or not. Um, so maybe in the next couple of days, Colton Thomas and I can just mass tweet at him saying we want your handle and try to get that, but it's not a big deal. Um, like us on Facebook, I guess, if you want to. We don't do stuff on Facebook because Facebook sucks. Um, and yeah, anything else you want to add before we go, Thomas?
I don't think so. I don't really have anything. It pretty much wraps it up for me.
All right, folks. Well, enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next time on the Laconic Mnemonic podcast. Um, shit, how do I do this? This is the best ending to a podcast ever. Me trying to figure out how to end it. All right, we'll see you guys later.